Hello everyone, welcome to the Autistic Mile, and this is episode 6 of the Ideal-ist. Today, we'll be talking about the character of Eternal Sugar Cookie from the game Cookie Run Kingdom. Now, a lot of you may see that name and be wondering, wait a minute, you're talking about a cookie? When did this become a culinary show? Well, the thing is, Cookie Run Kingdom is actually a mobile game, and it's one about sentient gingerbread cookies all living in a world and going on adventures together. Now, that may not sound very interesting at first glance, but they actually do some pretty cool things with that game, honestly. A lot cooler than you would have imagined from the name and the premise alone. I would say I thoroughly enjoyed the game, though sadly I did end up having to quit at some point because of the fact that the game has a very glaring problem in that it crashes every few minutes, so every time it does, you have to open up the game again in order to make any progress. And that can get very tiresome very quickly for a lot of people. But as for Eternal Sugar Cookie, she is what's called a beast cookie, which is a sort of major antagonist within the game. She's one of 5 cookies created by the witches, which are the cookie equivalent of gods in this game. And these 5 cookies were created to be heroes that would guide the cookies to an age of prosperity, so to speak. But with each of them, they ended up being corrupted in some way, either by the world, or by others, or simply by being in circumstances that pushed them to the edge. But all of them ended up pursuing a different version of their virtue of choice. And Eternal Sugar Cookie happens to be the one embodying the virtue of happiness. And already from that description, you could probably start to connect the dots on why I found her particularly interesting. But after her corruption, she ended up pursuing a different virtue, quote unquote, which was sloth. And since then, she's become so disenchanted with how the world is arbitrarily cruel and unfair. And so she created this sort of paradise for cookies that would shelter them from any negative experiences or need for struggle or conflict. And that may not sound bad on its own, but the thing about Eternal Sugar Cookie is that, like a surprising amount of characters that I like, she is mentally ill in some way. I chalk that up to being a cookie that essentially lives forever and having to watch everyone you know and love eventually pass on before you. Regardless, she's so protective of others that she refuses to let them leave her paradise, and she will resort to drastic means to prevent them from doing so, even if it means trapping them there by force. And from that description, you may be wondering why I would like a character like this. And the answer is, I've always been one who craves a sort of path of least resistance. As I've said before, life can be very confusing and absurd in the philosophical sense for those on the spectrum. And some of us, like my dad, are capable of overcoming the odds and not necessarily living a life that's hunky-dory and completely bereft of challenges or setbacks, but it's a life that they have the determination and the willpower to face head-on, which is something that Eternal Sugar Cookie's counterpart, Hollyberry Cookie, espouses. But then there are people like me who more prefer to just do away with all that resistance when it doesn't prove to get us where we want to go. We more pursue an approach of just flow with the tide and try to hold on to what you're given in terms of the good memories and moments that life gives you, because in our minds, that's really the best we're going to get. There was a time where I was passionate, and there was a time where I was someone who thought he could take on the world and all the hardships that come with it. Now I sort of look back on those events, and I don't really like the person that I was back then, because sure, I was ambitious, and sure, in one perspective, you can see the drive I had back then as admirable, but it came at a cost of hurting those around me and causing quite a bit of unnecessary drama and heartache for all involved, including myself. And it didn't just magically happen one day, but there came a point where I asked myself, why was I doing this? Why was I doing this to myself and others? What was the point of continuing to cling to these goals of mine when they weren't really doing anyone any good? So I became who I am now. And this is something that Hollyberry Cookie does bring up, that passion is really something that can go on forever. And sometimes passion isn't something that is necessarily good. But she immediately disregards this and sort of just reverts back to her old stance immediately after. And that does sadden me a bit. But what does touch me a lot is that the developers actually made a banner, if you know what that is, showcasing what it would look like if Eternal Sugar Cookie did win in her struggle against Hollyberry Cookie. That definitely made people like me feel very heard and very appreciated when other mediums don't really give us the time of day. So if I was given the choice of whether or not to accept a paradise like Eternal Sugar Cookies, well, I would. And that's because it's an easy choice for me. It gives me exactly what I want, and it's not really like I have any intentions of leaving, so it's not like I would incur any of the negative effects of Eternal Sugar Cookies' psyche. But that's just me, and I fully understand if anyone doesn't feel the same way. It's a very subjective thing. But in any case, that's all I have to say about Eternal Sugar Cookie. Feel free to share your own thoughts in the comments, like and subscribe, and I will see you next time. Thank you.